Good evening.
Good evening. A little dark.
A little
You brighten it up a little bit.
Am I?
Glasses are a little dirty. Hey, no, you look good.
Yeah, you do
look
too.
really good.
So what's the big news, Brzezinski?
I have. Well, it's nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a week.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I saw you about 5 days ago for a game night.
Oh, that's right. We had game night.
We played categories, the weekly categories thing going on.
How was your week since then?
It's been good. Busy. I'm glad the weather's getting a little nicer here in Brooklyn, so I can go outside for a stroll and not freeze to pieces.
Yeah, that's good.
Been busy, I guess, but I don't know when I'm doing what. It's hard. I think preparing for the show is really taking most of my time right now.
It's brutal getting ready.
It's a lot of work for this.
It's a lot of work.
I mean, you have to tidy up your the apartment there for one thing, and that's several minutes of time of your day.
Yeah.
And I have to get the lighting in here a little bit better. That takes time.
Well, I mean, most of the people, for most people, this is a podcast, and so they don't need to. We don't need to look good for the podcast people.
No, that's true. But for a random person who stops by for the live show,
and for mom,
yeah, I want to look. I want to look the best that we can.
We had a tough week here, though. It was rough.
Explain what happened.
Well, you made that choucroute last week, and then I talked about making a sauerbraten.
Right.
And discovered that the recipe that I wanted to make wasn't a sauerbraten. It was just a German style pot roast.
Okay.
And
it wasn't sour or braten-y.
It wasn't sour or braten. And Mom insisted on calling it sauerbraten. And we really got into it. It got ugly. It was
okay.
She was very disappointed, and
that you didn't make sauerbraten. You didn't make the thing that you said you were going to make.
I have to make the sauerbraten because she's on the warpath.
Yeah. Well, get to it. Hop to it. Don't let me interrupt. I mean,
the problem is that
I
was all ready to make the sauerbraten, and then found out that it has to marinate for like 4 or 5 days. So I couldn't make it for that night.
Right.
But I have other big news.
Well, what is the other big news? Oh my goodness! Look at that. So it's I thought for some reason I was thinking that we were going to be seeing a clear liquor, but we're not seeing that.
Not clear. It's a nice golden amber.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Look at that. That's great.
A nice bottle.
Great bottle. For those out there who are listening, Matthew's holding up a bottle of the first kind of unofficial batch of his new liquor.
The booze that my partners and I are going to be marketing. We have our prototypes now for people to taste and give us feedback. But we're getting closer and closer to market. So
it's a very last man standing kind of bottle,
isn't it?
Very 1920s speakeasy kind of bottle there.
Yeah, very excited about this. And then I have other news. I don't think. Did we talk about last week about the Sunshine Boys?
Last week was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
I don't remember, frankly.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a Zoom production of the Sunshine Boys with Pop and Robert Klein.
I don't know if you mentioned it on the show, but you did mention it to me in one of our rare off-air conversations. That's really exciting. That's an official thing now. It's an official thing,
and playing a role that I played 24 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic. Congratulations. When is that going to happen?
Don't have the date yet. Sometime in April, I think it is.
So you'll be acting with Dad.
Acting with Pop. Yeah.
That's not the first time you've acted with.
No, we did a film together about 15, 16 years ago.
All right.
Did a movie called
Race. And it went so well that 15 years later
we
get to do a thing again.
Yeah. Yeah. But it'll be fun.
That's great. With Robert Klein?
Robert Klein.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Who's producing it? Where can people see it?
don't know yet. It's being produced by a theater up here in Westchester, but it's a benefit.
Great.
And so I guess tickets will be available, and there will be different price tiers. You know, if you want the good seats, you get one ticket, and it'll fill your whole computer screen. You can get the partially obstructed view, where only part of your screen will be, you'll be a little bit blocked.
For very little money.
Hold the hand up like this for the partially obstructed view, but you don't pay as much.
Right. Of course. Why would you? It's very exciting. That's nice.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. So, we got a movie to talk about, I guess.
We do. We picked a movie last week and we saw it, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Had you seen The Hitch-Hiker before?
I haven't, but before we start talking about the movie, I have to talk to you about a kind of strange experience I had with this movie before I even started watching it.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't know anything about it, and I started doing some, as we do, went online to look at stuff, and the first thing I saw, the first thing that came up was this photograph, which I don't know if you've seen this photograph. It's from the movie. So you know this photo, right?
Well, I know the movie.
You know the movie.
I don't know that I know the photograph outside from the movie. But
okay, well, so this was the first thing I saw. I didn't know anything about the movie, and I saw this photograph, and I looked at that actor, and it's Frank Lovejoy.
In the front with the holding the rifle.
Frank Lovejoy in the front, and he looked really familiar to me, and I knew I had seen him somewhere before, and I couldn't figure out where, because he looked so incredibly familiar, like really familiar, like almost like I knew him. And I was racking my brain, and I did a really deep dive on the internet to try and find where I knew this guy from, and I finally found it. And it was incredible, because I want to share this with you. It freaked me out that I knew him so much. I mean,
yeah.
And I know that guy.
He seems to have he seems to have a head displacement problem a little bit, but
is it a little too big? Did I make it a little too big?
No, your Photoshop skills are improving a lot. And so you think I have a Frank Lovejoy vibe? Is that what you're trying to say?
Okay, I'm going to tell you a true story. So I did that, right? And then I was talking to my daughter, your niece, Abigail.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I got to show you something. Look at this photograph. And I showed her the first photograph, the first one of Frank Lovejoy. And her response instantly was, wow, did you Photoshop Uncle Tony into that picture?
Weird.
Instantly said that. She thought it was you.
Crazy. Oh my God.
And I said, no. I said, that's not Uncle Tony. And she said, you're kidding me. I said, no, that is not Uncle Tony.
That is really
That's an
crazy.
actor named Frank Lovejoy.
I wish I had Frank Lovejoy's hair right now.
Yeah, I know. That was the hardest part of the Photoshop experience, was blending your hair with Frank Lovejoy's.
Very good. I like that.
But I have that photo. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I will be posting both the Frank Lovejoy photo and the Anthony Arkin Frank Lovejoy photo on the website so that you can get some of the joy.
I love it.
I think maybe the head was a little too. Maybe I needed to shrink the head a little bit.
Maybe a tad, but I think it actually works for the comedy of it all. Yeah, I really do.
Good.
That's interesting. Well, I like Frank Lovejoy, and I'm glad that I remind you of him, and not, for instance,
not William Tallman,
Mr. Tallman in this movie.
Okay. Well, why don't you do your thing and tell us about this movie a little bit?
Okay, great.
I'm gonna have a sip of scotch while you
I'm
do.
gonna have some club soda.
Okay.
That was a nice little break for us both.
I'll edit that out, or maybe I won't.
No, I don't think you should. I think you keep it real. The Hitch-Hiker from 1953, from RKO Pictures, one of my favorite studio houses of all time. Directed by the great Ida Lupino. Very how do you describe Ida Lupino? She was a great movie star, and she was also one of the first women in Hollywood to break out and start making her own films and directing and becoming a big director of very respected big studio movies at a time where women really weren't doing that in Hollywood.
Nope.
At all. So she's somebody that's worth celebrating. And also, aside from just, her being a hero female director, she's just a great director and a great actor, like straight up fantastic.
One of my favorite episodes of The Twilight Zone.
She did an episode. I forget which episode she did, actually.
She was in one and she directed one.
Which one did she direct?
I don't know which one she directed. The one that she was in was sort of a Sunset Boulevard kind of twist, where it's an actress well past her glory days who can't stand that she's not young and famous and gorgeous anymore, and she watches herself on the screen in her screening room, and then ends up going into the movies and being back with all those people, but
fantastic.
Living on the screen. It's a wonderful episode.
She started,
with Martin Balsam.
With Martin Balsam too. She started out in films early, in the 40s. She was in she started actually in the 30s. My God, her first film was in 31. And then she kind of hit it big in High Sierra with Bogart in 41. And was in a lot of great noir movies, including one of my favorites, The Big Knife. She's fantastic in that. And then went on to direct Twilight Zone and other things. This is I guess it's not her first film. It's she directed maybe 5 things before this.
But isn't she the only woman to direct what was considered one of the
classic noir
movies?
I'm gonna say yes, but that I may not be right about that. I mean, I need to. I
think you are.
I think I'm right. She's certainly the most notable. She's the most famous person, a woman to direct an actual noir from that period.
Yeah.
But that certainly goes for Hollywood. There may have been women in other countries that did. I don't really know. But she's great. And she is doing a movie here based on an actual true crime, a real crime, a very scary killing spree that happened with an escaped convict who was killing people. I don't know. Did the real case take place in the desert like this movie does?
Yes, it did. The whole thing with Santa Rosalia is real.
Okay.
It was interesting that the FBI she wanted very badly to make it a true crime story using the real names and everything, and the FBI wouldn't let her. And actually, more than that, a much bigger and more powerful association wouldn't let her, the Motion Picture Association, much more dangerous than the FBI.
Clearly much more dangerous. Yeah.
Sort of like the phone company in
that's
the President's Annals.
That's really interesting because, I think it's a notable noir movie for a lot of reasons, but it's also a really early, real true crime story film. I feel like they'd adapted real crimes into movies before, but they didn't really say that it was from an actual event. This movie is clearly about an event that was pretty clear in people's minds, I think, when this came out.
Yeah.
And when it was made. And it wasn't until I think In Cold Blood, almost 10 years later, that a film kind of supposedly set the standard for a real case, a movie, you know.
Yeah,
but this came way before, and I think I just think it's a great film. I'd seen it before. I go back to it a lot, and it was a pleasure to see it again. You know, you'd never seen it.
I'd never seen it, but do you want to tell our audience the story before we start getting into the
Sure.
nitty-gritty?
It's a case about two guys who are going on a fishing trip, who pick up a hitchhiker along the road in the desert on their weekend jaunt together, and he turns out to be a homicidal killer who's been on the loose for a few days and has already killed a few people on the road and stolen cars. And he kidnaps these guys and takes them on a kind of a joyride into the desert, into Mexico. And the movie intercuts between them trying to get to a port town where you think this guy is going to kill these two Americans. And they're also cutting between that and the Mexican police, who are tracking them through the desert. And then one kind of silly American FBI agent who that's the only thing in the movie that doesn't work.
It's this really good noir movie, and then there's a guy out of a bad episode of the FBI from the late 60s.
I feel like maybe somebody else directed those scenes, because that's all on in a studio, and
sort of like an FBI from a movie you would have watched in health class in the 50s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. a sex ed class.
Yeah.
So that's the movie. It's very short. It's not very short, but it's a very tight, very small cast.
Yep.
Goes by quickly.
1 hour and 11 minutes, I think.
It's an hour and 11 minutes long. Yeah. And it's packed with stuff, and it really does. It packs a punch. Yeah, it really packs a punch.
Just the front card, I love. This is the true story of a man and a gun and a car.
Yeah. First shot of the movie is a gun pointing at the camera, so you get an idea really quick that this is a tough movie, and not a movie that you'd expect necessarily a woman to direct. Certainly back in 53.
No, and
to do it like you there's nothing about it that it seems like actually kind of hard for a man's movie. It's really notably tough. I think this movie.
Yeah.
She pulls no punches. She reminds me a little bit, I guess, of the movie reminds me a lot of a Kubrick movie and a lot of a John Huston movie. She worked with Huston. Worked in a film with one of his High Sierra was written by John Huston. So she worked in a script of his, and I think learned a lot of moves from him, because you can really see a lot of Asphalt Jungle, which was 1950, right? John Huston's very, very famous film noir, like a picture film noir. And you can see her learning a lot from that really stripped down, very masculine style that he had. But there's something about it that has this humanity in it, that knowing a little bit about her and knowing that she was very into causes and wanted to make films that were about causes and things that were important, you can see her humane side kind of coming out, and how she deals with some of the smaller characters, I think. So it's both really hard hitting and tough and really scary, particularly for a movie from 53, and also kind of warm and about a lot of things.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about
there's a lot to talk about.
There's a ton. Can we just start with the killer himself, with Emmett Myers?
William Tallman.
William Tallman.
Most people know from 225 episodes of Perry Mason. As district attorney.
Not a show I ever really watched even one episode of, to be totally honest.
I watched it religiously when I was...
it was on TV in the morning when you would get when I was
8, 9, 10 years old, I adored that show.
Okay. Crazy.
The
Do you
case
remember?
of the crooked picture, Perry Mason and the case of the twisted vase.
Do you remember Tallman from that show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
he was big time regular on the show every week.
he 225 episodes. Every episode was Perry Mason, the defense lawyer, against the same district attorney in the courtroom every episode. And he was spectacular.
Was he very well dressed and urbane on that show as a lawyer? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's great stuff.
If you saw him in this movie and then said the next thing you're really going to see him in is a very sophisticated urban court drama, you'd probably be like, "There's no way this guy could do it."
No, you would not. He really. This was a career highlight for him. And he died very young. He died at 53.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Frank Lovejoy died at the age of 50, I think. They both died quite young.
That would explain. I mean, there's no other reason why I could think we don't know more about these guys as actors, because they're actually both really, everybody's good in this movie.
And Frank Lovejoy actually started out was really big in radio.
Okay.
And worked with Grandpa Dana.
Oh, no kidding.
On
Gangbusters?
Gangbusters. He was a big guy on Gang.
Oh, what do you know? Yeah. Our grandfather, our mom's dad, was a guy who worked in radio and wrote for radio theater, including Gangbusters and The Shadow, maybe.
I think so.
But a lot of those kind of noir radio shows.
Yeah. So Grandpa would have known this guy.
No doubt.
Yeah.
William Tallman plays one of the best crazed killers in a movie. I really think it's one of the Hall of Fame crazy killers from any movie. I mean, particularly when you think this was 1953. Psycho hadn't come out yet.
Yep.
Before. Have you? He smelled so bad.
He smelled bad.
He's this interesting kind of, he typifies what the movie kind of is about to me, which is like this analysis of, I don't like the phrase male toxicity or whatever. I wish there was a different phrase for it, but like whatever's terrible about men, it's like the flip side of the cool guy. Black leather jacket, stubble. He's got, he's like the guy on the run, the tough guy.
Yeah.
And they managed to do all of that and to depict him that way, but they also make him like an amphetamine driven, sweaty, unhinged, disgusting mess.
Yeah.
And he's really terrifying.
Yeah. He, you know what, the real Cook, Billy Cook was the name of the killer, the real killer.
I did not look it up, but
when he was arrested, he said the quote they have of him when he was arrested, which is perfect for this movie, is, "I hate everybody's guts and everybody hates mine."
Oh my God. Wow, that's like a line from the movie. They really did their homework.
Yeah, and that line's not in the film, but that's exactly how he talks through the whole thing. When Lovejoy says to him, because he's pointing that gun at them all the time, and finally Lovejoy says to him, "You ever been at the other end of a gun?" And he says, "No, and I never will be."
I want to talk for a second, now that we're there, about this thing that's just been driving me crazy about this movie that I love, that I feel on this viewing, I finally kind of like, it really kind of made all sense, just kind of clicked into place, about this really not being about this true case at all. I feel like they took this and used it as an opportunity, Ida Lupino and the producer and her co-writer, to just explore masculine issues and tropes and relationships and masculine cliches.
Yep.
do it through a lens of the most masculine form of movie, arguably the noir, like, tough guy movie, and
Right.
make all kinds of amazing statements that are so advanced. Like they're so particularly psychologically advanced to me for 1953. It's really, really amazing what she was able to do.
Well, she turned a lot of stuff on its head too.
Yeah.
You know, the heroes in the movie, these victims, do absolutely nothing heroic in the entire film.
Nothing. They suffer.
They suffer and merely survive.
Yeah.
And we know that one of them was in the army.
You get the feeling that maybe both of them
of them were, but they don't confirm it with Edmund O'Brien's character. But you get the feeling that maybe they were army buddies, but you get the feeling that Frank Lovejoy's character maybe was the one who saw more combat, and maybe Edmund O'Brien was an engineer or something, because Lovejoy really knows his way around a gun, as we see in that scene where Emmett makes him shoot.
And forgive me, but like an actual person who actually saw action wouldn't want to be a hero unless it was absolutely necessary to do so, because they know the reality of it.
Right. And Edmund O'Brien keeps saying, "Let's do the, let's try." And Frank Lovejoy's like, no. And in the one scene where they do try to escape finally, and they don't, William Tallman has one of my favorite lines, and it speaks to this thing you're talking about the masculinity, is when he says, "You guys are really fools. If you wanted, one of you would have got away, but you kept thinking about each other, so you missed some chances. You got tired. You slowed down. Now it's pretty late."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you didn't do what men do, which is die.
Or risk it all to prove their masculinity against the evil guy and to win. They didn't do any of that. They simply tried to get through it, which really, when you think about it, and you're absolutely right, when you think about it coming out in 1953, that statement alone was so necessary to hear back then, particularly with a whole generation of men who had seen World War II and were dealing with post-traumatic stress and all the kind of 50s mentality, like buck up, be a tough guy attitudes, with Korea, coming up, and just the sense of manhood being this unattainable dream that everybody has. I love the way too how we were talking last week that every noir movie, like the great noirs, all are about bad decisions. They're all about making a wrong choice of some kind. And there's one in here too, which is so great. It's so tiny, but these guys do screw up. They make a fatal mistake in the beginning of the movie, and they pay for it just like they do in all noirs. You know what I'm talking about, right? They're going to go on a fishing trip, and they've told their wives they're going to go on a fishing trip. And they kind of secretly know that really what they're going to do is stop at a few bars on the way and maybe take a detour to visit this old stripper that they used to know back before the war, like during the war.
Right. And they go to Mexico, not to the mountains in Colorado.
Where they tell their wives they're going. They go to Mexicali, which is kind of like a red light district fun town for bachelor guys who want to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many nights have you and I spent there?
I'd rather not bring it up.
Okay. All right.
But so they have this great moment where they kind of, before they pick up the hitchhiker, they're talking about, we're going to go fishing. Well, you maybe want to take a detour, and they're like, well, maybe we'll do that. That'd be kind of great to see old Florine, who used to dance at the thing, and and then he has this great line. He goes, "Yeah, but she's probably dead by now because it's been so long." And they're like, poor Florine. But they both kind of decide that they're gonna maybe go they're going to go to have some drinks and then have some fun, but they feel weird about it because immediately Lovejoy's character brings up his wife, and he says, you know, it gets really dark in the car with these two guys. And Lovejoy says, you know, this is the first time I've ever been away from Maudie and the kids since before the war.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really quiet in the car. And an amazing thing happens. Edmund O'Brien literally goes, well, it's all right. Let's call it off. We'll just go fishing. It's fine, man. Or we can turn around and go home.
Right.
And you realize you've never really seen two male friends acting together in kind of a loving, supportive way. Like right away, you're seeing something that's kind of different.
Yeah.
They're having feelings. They're not feeling particularly masculine about it because they kind of want to go relive their youth and be tough guys, but then they're also kind of middle-aged and but they decide to go, right? They go anyway. And if they hadn't gone, they never would have run into the hitchhiker.
Never would have run into to Emmett Myers.
But did you notice what happens in front of the club when they're just about to go in and they pull up?
Lovejoy pretends to be asleep.
Just like the killer does all the time later.
Yep.
Amazing, weird, complicated stuff. He has that weird moment where he's looking at Edmund O'Brien, and Edmund O'Brien doesn't know he's awake. Mirrored later with all this weird behaviors of things they don't know, things they're not willing to say to each other, things that come out. All this fear of not being a man enough.
The other thing that's really interesting about the whole manhood thing is that Frank Lovejoy's character, who doesn't want to fight the whole time, wants to, you know, just keep your head down and let's get through this. And they end up surviving it. And he's in some ways much more of that expression of manhood is much more authentic than Edmund O'Brien's sort of false bravado of we got to take him. We got to look for our chance. And then at the end of the movie, when the cops catch Emmett Myers and they handcuff him, Edmund O'Brien starts to beat the crap out of him,
mm-hmm.
but only when he's handcuffed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. And it's also great because it seems so authentic. It seems like what people would do. It doesn't feel like it's a brilliant writing thing, but it's also so well acted and so real that you don't think of it as a comment at first at all. You just think of it as like, of course this guy did it. But then you think about, wow, yeah, it does say all these really amazingly complicated things about it. There's
Frank
a scene.
Lovejoy watches him and lets him do it, but doesn't join in.
Yeah. Because he's seen the real thing.
Yeah.
You get the feeling.
Yeah.
We have a couple of things that we pulled. Did you pull anything to play or?
No, I didn't pull anything to play. I spent the entire week learning Photoshop so I could put your head on that.
You have to send that to me. I really do love that.
Of course. But which clip do you want to watch here?
Well, now I'm forgetting which ones I sent you, actually. Did I send, let me see, what are they? Did I send you the watch scene?
Yes, you did.
Want to play that one?
Sure, here we go.
All right. This is them camping out by the river.
You guys are soft. You know what makes you that way? You're up to your necks in IOUs. You suckers. You're scared to get out on your own. You always had it good, so you're soft. Well, not me. Nobody ever gave me anything. So I don't owe nobody. My folks were tough. When I was born, they took one look at this puss of mine and told me to get lost. I didn't need them. I didn't need any of them. Got what I wanted my own way.
You know,
Great stuff.
Great dialogue, great work from him, and so cool that somebody that is just so disgusting. I mean, this character is literally just, you know, the lowest of the low. Ida Lupino gives him his moment where it's like, okay, we see the chain of abuse. Like he talks about it in the scene. It's like, my parents never gave me anything. Like they clearly didn't love him. He was probably abused. They don't make a big thing of it. And they also don't do what they do in a lot of movies that I think, arguably, well, I don't want to talk about Hitchcock here, but like even in Psycho, where they have a doctor come in at the end and go, well, the reason is because he has psychoambulations at night, and he, and explain it all. But here they give it to him, and he gets to explain it in his own language, which, is really very unique for the time. They give him his opportunity to make a case for himself, and he makes a couple of good points, because you can't argue with it. Like, he is his own man. He lives by the man code, and they are soft by comparison.
Yeah. And he speaks the man code too. Grub.
Yeah.
Grub. Cut the gab.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that stuff.
So intricate and so objective. The way that, that's what reminds me of Kubrick about it, like early Kubrick, like, The Killing and Killer's Kiss. Just that incredibly dry, not ornate, very, very efficient storytelling. Anything else that you particularly love about it?
I love the very opening, the way Emmett Meyer's characters handle that. We just, for the longest time, we just see his feet. Through the first couple of murders, you just see his feet.
Yeah.
It almost reminded me of the opening sequence of History of Violence. Sure. Where it was sort of almost as if they took something from this, in that you don't see the killers for a while, if I'm remembering it correctly. You see their legs and feet leaving the hotel room.
No, that's actually not the case. I don't know. I don't want to call you out.
You can call me out. I might be remembering it wrong.
You do see them in a long shot leaving, getting into their car. They leave the hotel. They get in the car together. You see them full figure in a medium shot that goes on for quite a while. But there are elements of, you can see DNA from this movie in that and in a lot of other things.
You can always call me out. I'm old. I don't remember things correctly.
See a lot of Zodiac in this. Fincher,
but from seeing his feet to the wallet being tossed away to into the clip that you picked, which we should show.
The first time that you see his face, is great. That's this clip. Yeah, that's a great moment. Because
up until this point, we've only seen his feet or his back as he's hitchhiking,
walking away from us down the road.
Yeah, and then you see him get picked up by different people who get killed, and then you get to see this.
Smoke? No. What are you doing, rolling? Face front. And keep driving. Sure, I'm Emmett Myers. Do what I tell you. And don't make no fast moves. There are a lot of dead heroes back there getting nervous. From now on, while you're driving, keep both hands high on that wheel. And you, keep one hand along the top of this seat. The other hand high on that window. All right. Now turn off the next side road we come to.
There's just so many great things going on here in that simple sequence.
Yeah,
that pull in, that track into his close up,
Yeah.
First of all, it's like they do that in horror movies. They do that in Dracula, right? Where the villain comes up into the light and we kind of move forward. But the other place that we do that, and what I think Ida Lupino is really referencing here, is the hero shot. And I think she's taking that classic, that John Wayne shot that John
first
Ford did in Stagecoach, where it's like hero shot.
Yeah, that
And I
first
think
shot
she's
of him.
doing that and kind of inverting it, and making it really disturbing. And then she pulls back into that 3 shot, and then coming behind him, looking behind Emmett's head as they're driving down that dark road. It's just so creepy.
Yeah. How did they handle that eyelid, do you think, through the whole movie?
This big lump of silly putty on his face. You can kind of see it's clay in one of the close-ups. It's just that old modeling clay they used to use for,
and that just sort of pushed his eyelid down.
Probably, yeah. They just glued some heavy piece of crap on his face.
Because I had to have my eyelid glued open once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this a punishment for something? What happened?
Yeah. No, it was in a film. My character was supposed to have Bell's palsy.
Oh,
eyelid
I've had Bell's palsy for a little while.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah,
so they actually put like glue on my eyelid and then folded it over and glued it down onto my cheek so that my eye was pulled open and didn't shut.
You put that on your group resume shot for a while.
Right? Well, so I use it on my dating profile. Yeah. Along with the picture of the whale. Yeah.
I want to give a huge shout out to a couple of people here. I want to give a shout out to, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I hope I am. Natividad Vacio, who plays
You're asking me?
No, I'm not. I'm apologetically saying everything right now.
Okay.
So it's not a question. It's just, I'm hoping I'm right. Natividad Vacio. He plays Jose, the fisherman that they meet, who calls the police on them. Also to Jose Torve, who played the police captain who's trailing them through the desert. He was in The Treasure of Sierra Madre. 2 wonderful actors. And why I love them, they're good in the movie, but I love that Ida Lupino, who also wrote this script, lets these Spanish-speaking actors speak in Spanish, just speaking together, speaking Spanish, no subtitles. We don't know what they're saying. If you don't speak Spanish, you're out. Sorry, you don't get to know. And there are 3 or 4 scenes that are just with Spanish-speaking people, Mexicans, talking to each other about the case, following them around, and we never, ever get subtitles. And I was like, that is really cool. That is 1953? Come on. Yeah. That's really amazing. And she gave them things to play, and even small parts. She gave these actors something to play and cast good actors in these parts, so that you really felt like, even though you were only kind of spending a little time with these people who were tracking the killers, you really felt like you got to know them as people. And they were all also so comparatively sane and like normal and rational compared to the Americans in the movie. I thought that was also a really interesting comment,
And the Mexican police are the ones who capture him.
Yeah, they get him. The FBI doesn't do it.
The FBI doesn't do it. And it was the Mexican police in real life who captured Cook by walking up to him and pulling his gun. Like so an officer walked up to him and pulled the gun out of his waistband or something like that.
Right. There you go. Not so tough now.
Yeah.
Not so tough now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought that was really, really cool, and really surprising. I keep on saying for 53, but I mean, honestly, that's kind of surprising, even for today, to see an American movie with who risk just like, no, we're gonna have a bunch of scenes that are in another language. Just take it easy. It's not about you. It's not about you for 5 minutes. But also, I thought, there was another interesting thing. Not to get too deep about it, but I was thinking about how in the movie, the character of Emmett Myers, the killer, anytime people speak Spanish, he flips out.
Yeah.
He's kind of racist, but he's also terrified that somebody's going to talk when he won't get it. Like they're going to give away his position or something, right? Yeah. Because he doesn't speak Spanish. But I was thinking they do that so many times in the film, and then they have all these scenes where people are speaking Spanish and they don't tell the audience. I bet you there was a bit of like prodding from Ida Lupino going, who out there in the audience is going to get pissed off because they're speaking Spanish right now?
Interesting.
And I bet there were more than a few.
Do you have a favorite moment in the movie?
I have a bunch of moments I love, but I do have a favorite moment. Yeah. Do you want to hear what it is, or have I already talked too much?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I had one.
I just want to know if you had one.
I think my favorite moment in a movie full of great moments is the moment where Lovejoy, played by no, it's Frank Lovejoy is the actor.
Yeah.
Who's playing Bowen. When he grabs that little girl away from Emmett Myers.
Yeah.
They go to this dry goods store to pick up some supplies on the road, and there's a tense scene because Emmett Myers has got a gun hidden on them, and he's telling the two kidnapped guys to go pick up food in the store. And the guy who runs the store is this kindly store manager. He doesn't know what's going on, and his little daughter is like 6 years old, comes out and starts to kind of like tug on the killer's sleeve because she doesn't know what's going on. They don't really know what's happening yet. But she's just close. She's just too close to him, and he doesn't like it. Like Emmett Myers kind of like brushes her off and says something kind of creepy about it. And Frank Lovejoy just rushes over to her and grabs her away from him, and like pulls her, like blocks her, like pulls, as if to get her as physically far from him as possible, just because it's revolting to him to think of her anywhere near him. I just thought that was so well played, and I thought Lovejoy brought that brilliantly without overdoing it. You know, he got all of that information in that one move. I loved it.
I think one of my favorite moments is there's a scene, the scene where they're by the well, and you're starting to think that maybe this is where he's gonna kill them and throw them down in the well. And it's the first time in the movie that there's this really lovely music playing. But they're off in the middle of the desert in Mexico.
Yeah.
And at first, my first thought was that it was non-diegetic music. I thought, this is the strangest music to have as the score to the scene. And it's not for a little ways into the scene that you find out it's diegetic music coming from the radio.
Yeah, it's very strange.
And he makes them drop something down into the well to see how deep it is, and you think he's going to kill them and throw them down there. And I'm like saying, why is this sweet, lovely? There is no other lovely music anywhere in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It was so creepy and jarring to me.
That's why I say she reminds me of Kubrick. It literally is the kind of like she's using these devices we've seen in other noir movies, but she's twisting them a little bit, you know, and kind of making new comments about stuff with it. It's while still making a real noir movie. You know, she still loves the genre.
Yeah, very strange moment.
Another scene I love is the which I have a clip of. I don't know if you want to play it if we have time, but
we have time. We're on YouTube. We can do whatever we want. We could talk about this.
We could keep going. It could be a marathon. We could watch the movie now. We could play it.
Let's just watch it and we'll smile.
I love that the scene later in the movie where the airplane flies overhead and Edmund O'Brien has his complete freak out where he loses it. I'd love to show it because it's a great acting moment from O'Brien, and it's also, watch the camera angles here. What's going on?
Here it is.
Here we are! Here we are! Can't you see us? Look gun! Hear me! Hear me! Come back! Come back!
Leave him alone. Can't you see he's praying?
Heavy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not used to seeing guys just break into tears and fall onto the ground.
No.
And that's interesting. And then also just how clinical it is, like incredibly high angle on Edmund O'Brien, incredibly low angle on Tallman, right?
Yeah.
These extremes, and then just right down the barrel, eye level at Lovejoy through every single shot until he ascends the mountain of morality at the end of that scene. You know, after Tallman just does one of the most disgusting things you can do of mocking, like mocking somebody,
Mocking and praying. Yeah.
I mean, she's a great director. If this is the only thing she made, she'd
be a great director.
For the heat.
And Edmund O'Brien, you know, man who shot Liberty Valance, Barefoot Vanessa, 7 Days in May, Wild Bunch, Fantastic Voyage, The Longest Day, DOA. I mean, that guy just, the other two guys, I mean, Tallman worked, but
yeah, they weren't that well known. But Edmund O'Brien was one of the most beloved character actors of his day.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
His stuff,
New York guy, started in New York, theater guy.
Well, all the you know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we
just wanted to say
we don't even need to go there.
Nah.
And then you had some photographs that you wanted to show, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. Just some setups that I just particularly really love. I mean, we can talk while you throw them up there. We can tell people listening to the podcast.
I'll throw it up, and you can talk about it a little bit. There we go. Oh no, that's the pot roast that I made this week. We don't need to see that.
That looks really good. That looks really
great.
Good.
The cabbage and the potatoes and the carrots.
I made a pot roast yesterday, and yours looks better. You win.
It was pretty special, but I'm sorry that was a complete accident.
That's from a color film.
Yeah, that was by accident. That's here we go. Here's your pictures. There we go.
Okay, I love the car in this. I want that car. I want it very badly. Just that car in that desert with that sign hanging off of it, just doesn't get much more stripped down noir than that. Like, that is just end of the road, the last bits of humanity. This is what happens when you make bad choices.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is exactly why we can't have nice things. And this is just these three guys marching through this landscape. What I love, one of the things I love about the movie is how much of it is shot on location. They did a little bit of studio stuff, but I think almost everything with these three actors was on the road and in real desert locations and stuff. And here they are crossing what must be part of Death Valley.
And she does a really beautiful job too of the way the scenery and the way the location gets worse and worse as their situation gets worse. They start off on sort of rustic country roads, and then they end up on dirt roads, and then they end up on hard pack, and then they end up in the desert, and then they end up on this kind of desert.
Because they go from high desert to low desert.
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse and worse and more bleak.
Yeah,
as their situation gets more and more bleak.
I also just love the angle on it too. That slightly high angle she's got is great. And then this shot of Emmett Myers, of Tallman in the back seat of the car, is just so creepy. He's lurching back there like this animal, like this toad, and the way the physicalization of his evil is just so good in this movie. It's fantastic. He's just unnerving as hell. Yeah. And clearly he's clearly on drugs too. I feel like it's an early example of somebody who's an amphetamine nut, you know, like a pill popper.
Yeah.
Just the way he's sweating and everything. I mean, I know that from when I
Well,
was an amphetamine junkie and was popping pills and sweating all the time. It's very uncomfortable. You look like that.
All right. So I've covered my favorite lines, my favorite moment. I don't have a least favorite. There's nothing about this movie.
Just the FBI agent.
The FBI. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the one thing. We did find something to deride.
Yeah.
I'm
just
not happy unless I have derision for
yeah.
something.
I mean, I think anybody who sees this will know that's not the finest moments of the film. Luckily, they're very brief. They're very brief and they're informational. They're informational only.
Yeah.
But I am gonna go get everything Ida Lupino directed on Blu-ray and just celebrate her, because more people need to talk about her. Damn it, so good.
So there was an article that I saw about Lupino and the Hitch-Hiker, and in that article it talked about, and this is something I'm going to start doing. It talked about certain movies that it considers are the keystones of noir, which are The Locket by John Bram. Do you know that one?
I'm embarrassed to say that I do not.
Out of the Past and Born to Be Bad, Nicholas Ray.
I've seen Out of the Past. I've not seen Born to Be Bad.
Where Danger Lives, John Farrow. Clash by Night, Fritz Lang. And The Blue Gardenia, Fritz Lang.
Whose list is this, and where did you get this list?
This from an article on Ida Lupino, and these were movies that they were talking about. These are all all before this movie that they're talking about were influences on her.
Oh, okay, all right. I know some of those things. I haven't seen the majority of them, so that's embarrassing.
Well,
I have to rectify that.
I don't know that it's embarrassing.
Let me to be I will decide what's embarrassing.
I haven't seen any of them, so
you should be humiliated, not just embarrassed.
I'm often humiliated.
She's really, like, I don't know. This movie's great. This is just a great film.
But so next week we're going to be talking about Kiss Me Deadly.
Yes.
Right?
No comma. There's no comma.
No, there's no comma.
No, it's just
I thought
straight.
Deadly was Deadly. I thought Deadly was a character. I thought it was like, Kiss Me Deadly.
No. It could work that way, I suppose, but that's not the thing.
Okay. Do you want to tell me anything about that movie? Because I don't know anything about it.
It's a Mike Hammer movie. And Mike Hammer that character was kind of considered kind of the most brutal, kind of brutal tough guy detectives of the genre. Yeah. Wasn't it Spillane? Mike Hammer? I
believe Mike Hammer was Mickey
Spillane. Yeah. And this film is another noir movie, very hard hitting, tough movie about terrible people, made by a very nice person, made by a very humanitarian guy. So there's a lot of very interesting commentary in it, I think, about similar things, about masculinity and stuff. But
do you want to tell us who the person you just said all those wonderful things about? You didn't tell us who it is.
Oh, we're going to talk about it next week. I don't want to give anything away. Why would I have nothing to say next week?
But I want to know his name.
I have to look up the stats. Hold on one second.
A great humanitarian and a personal friend of mine whose name I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. Kiss Me Deadly. I'm bad with names. Let's just face it.
I'm your brother Matthew.
I don't need to know that right now. Yeah, Robert Aldrich directed. Aldrich was known as like a great guy to work for. He was just a good guy,
a good egg,
interested in humanitarian ideas in his movies, and made some really crazy dark movies for a guy like that. Kiss Me Deadly is just notably hard hitting, and Ralph Meeker as Mickey Spillane in this well, not as Mickey Spillane, but as the detective. I'm totally falling apart here. As Mike Hammer is one of the more evil heroes. Like he's the hero, but he's kind of the most anti-hero that you'll ever see. So it's a crazy movie. I'm looking forward to looking at it again.
I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So people should tell other people about this show.
You should. Other people need to tell those other people about that show as well.
You need to tell people. If you tell people, and each person you tells 2 people, and they each tell 2 people,
there'll be like 37 people talking about this show,
watching the show.
Fantastic.
It's available as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, and have a great time. And come join us next week for Kiss Me Deadly.
Kiss Me Deadly.
Yeah. All right. And
All right,
I'll probably talk to you before next week.
I'll probably talk to you after the credits.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.